Hello guys, welcome back. Yes, in the previous video we have seen the highlights of the budget. In this video, in continuation to that, we will see the budget at a glance. Means broadly we will see the figures, allocations, expenditure, income, okay, then deficit trends, etc. We will try and understand in this video. Okay, you remember this is going to be very much informative. Okay, lot of data is there, you try to follow, and if you are facing any difficulty with respect to understanding what is what, just you can pause and you can go back and you can watch the video, and you can always refer to the document. You see, this document is also available in the website, Media Budget website. This document is right. We will see the aspects. You see, the budget at a glance. This document, this presents the broad aggregates of the budget for easy understanding, for people like you and me. Okay. You see, these documents shows the receipts and expenditure of the government, as well as certain deficits like fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, and primary deficit. Okay? And apart from that, it also shows the receipts and sources of receipts and expenditure through graphs and infographics. In addition, the document also tells us the details of resources transferred to the state government's duties with the legislature, and extracts of allocations for programs, and all these details will be shared in this document. You see, briefly we will know the definitions of these four deficits. They are very important. They have been asked in the exam in the past, and there is a guarantee that definitely they might be asked in the future also. Right. So first one is fiscal deficit. Right. What it is the difference between total expenditure and the total receipts, excluding the debt capital or debt creating capital receipt. Okay, that is fiscal deficit. What is the significance of fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is reflective of the total borrowing requirement of the government. You see, when we are saying that fiscal deficit is this much, indirectly you are saying that government has to borrow this much money in this financial year. That is what we are indirectly saying. Then revenue deficit. You see, revenue deficit refers to the excess of revenue expenditure over the revenue receipts. You see, simply to put it, it's how much less we are earning to meet our day-to-day expenditure from the point of view of the government. That's known as revenue deficit. An effective revenue deficit is the difference between revenue deficit and grants in aid for creation of capital assets. Means government is doing the expenditure. As part of it is government is giving grants in aids to the state governments. That is also part of revenue deficit. But some of the grants in aid that are given to the state governments, a portion of it is utilized for capital expenditure. Okay, so when you minus that, then it will become the effective revenue deficit. Okay, then primary deficit is also there. It is measured as fiscal deficit less or minus interest payments. So from the fiscal deficit, you will minus or reduce the interest payment liability. Then you will get the primary deficit. Then effective capital expenditure is also there. That refers to the sum of capital expenditure and grants in aid for creation of capital. So the effective capital expenditure is also similar to effective revenue deficit. Okay, both are little bit similar. These are the definitions you have to remember very carefully. Many times they have been asked in the exam. In future also they might be asked once again. Okay, so the details are given. Revised in revised estimates of 2025-26, the total expenditure is estimated at 49 lakh 60,000 crore rupees. So effectively, this is the size of the budget. So last year, revised estimates budget size is, or expenditure is 49 lakh crore rupees. So that is the size of the budget. Okay. Against this, the total actuals for financial year 2024-25 were 46 lakh 52,000 crore. So in 2024-25, the total expenditure, actual expenditure was 46 lakh crore rupees. For 2025-26, revised estimates are 49 lakh crore rupees. This year, the budget size is estimated expenditure is 53 lakh crore rupees. So you can see 24-25, 46 lakh crore rupees, 25-26, 49 lakh crore rupees, 26-27, 53 lakh crore rupees is the expenditure. Means in other words, you can say that is also the size of the budget. Okay. In this, the total capital expenditure is estimated at 10 lakh crore rupees roughly in revised estimates for the past financial year against 10 lakh crore rupees, 10 lakh 51,000 crore rupees in the actuals of 2024-25. So like this, lot of data is there. You see the present, it also says that in the present budget, the estimated expenditure stands at 53 lakh 47,000 crore rupees, in which the capital expenditure portion will be 12 lakh 21,000 crore rupees, and the effective capital expenditure will be roughly 5 lakh crore rupees more, that will be 17 lakh 14,000. Then if you further go and see the total resources that are being transferred to the states, including the devolution of the states, share, grants, loans, etc., and under the centrally sponsored scheme, etc., the budget is present budget, the 2026-27 budget estimates are going to be for the 25 lakh 43,000 crore, which shows an increase of 3 lakh 78,000 over the actuals of uh, the financial year 24-25. Many more figures are there. We will try and understand. You see, if you see the total revenue receipts of the government, revenue receipts are non-asset creating or day-to-day receipts. You can think like that. The 2024-25 actuals standard 30 lakh 30,000 crore rupees. Roughly, I will say 30 lakh crore rupees. Revised estimates of 25-26 are 33 lakh crore. Present budget estimates, the upcoming financial year 26-27 budget estimates are 35 lakh 33,000 crore. Okay. Then in that you can divide into tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue receipts from taxes 28 lakh crore rupees. Non-tax revenue will be 6 lakh crore rupees roughly. Then if you see the capital receipts, budgeted capital receipts 18 lakh 18,000 rupees, whereas the revised estimates for the previous year or for 25-26 year are 16 lakh 22,000 crore rupees. You see, when I am saying present year, you think 26-27 because we are discussing the 26-27 budget. When I am saying past year, you think about 25-26. Okay, so that change you try to accommodate. Okay, then in that recovery of loans, other receipts, borrowings, etc., you can go through the figures always, no problem. So in this way, if you see total receipts of the government are 53 lakh 47,000 crore rupees. Roughly, you can say this is the size of the budget. At the same time, you see total expenditure. Generally, in budget, total receipts will be equal to total expenditure. The budget has to be balanced. So same figure, 53 lakh 47,000 crore. Okay. Then uh, then you can go on, seeing the figures. Effective capital expenditure will be 17 lakh 14,000 crore rupees. Revenue deficit will be 5 lakh 92,000 crore rupees. As a percentage, you see 1.5% of GDP. Then effective revenue deficit is already we have seen 99,000 crore rupees, which is going to be 0.3% of GDP. Then fiscal deficit, if you see, 16 lakh 95,000 crore rupees, which is going to be roughly 4.3% of GDP. Try to remember the figures. You can quote in the exam. Okay. Then primary deficit will be 2 lakh 91,000 crore rupees, which is going to be roughly 0.7 try to remember the figures. Try to remember the figures. Okay. Move forward. Then rupee comes from. In the previous video also we have seen that from where the rupee is coming and where the rupee is going. So the rupee receipts, if you see, 24% of the rupee means 24% of the receipts for the government are coming through borrowings and other liabilities. Very unfortunate. The biggest receipts are coming from our borrowings. Then the second highest one is income tax. Income tax is giving 21% of the revenue to the. Then the third one in the line is corporation tax, 18%. Then comes GST and other taxes, 15%. Then non-tax revenue, its share is 10%. Then union excise duties, 6%. Customs duties, 4%. Then non-debt capital receipts, 2%. Broadly, this is how the government is earning its revenue or receipts for the government are coming. Or roughly, this is how the rupee is coming to the government. Then, if you see the expenditure, rupee goes to towards various things, or roughly you can say this is the expenditure of the government. So the highest will be, interest payment. Before that, states' share of taxes, that is the highest component in central government's expenditure, 22%. The next highest expenditure is towards interest payments by the central government. You see, central government is borrowing a lot of money, so it has to pay interest on that, right? So towards that, 20% of the government expenditure is. Okay. The next biggest expenditure is central sector scheme. Okay, schemes that are directly implemented by the central government, towards which the central government is giving 100% money. Okay, so towards that the expenditure is good. The next biggest item after that is defense expenditure, central government's expenditure towards defense. The next after that is centrally sponsored scheme. You see, for general category states, the implementation of these schemes, centrally sponsored scheme, 60% will be borne by the expenditure will be borne by the central government, and 40% will be contributed by the state governments. Whereas there are certain states, okay, Himalayan states and the northeastern states, they are also generally called as a special category states. Now the government says that there are no special category states, so we will call them as Himalayan and the northeastern states. So for them, 90% is expenditure of 90% expenditure is borne by the central government. 10% will be borne by the respective. So that is the structure of centrally sponsored schemes. Then other major expenditure is finance commission and other transfers, maybe in the form of, generally in the form of grants in aid. Then next biggest category is other expenditure, and finally major subsidies. Okay, government's subsidies towards food, fertilizer, electricity, okay, tax concessions, etc. Then finally civil pensions. Okay, 2% of the central government's expenditure is going in the form of civil pensions. From that you remove the defense pensions. Okay, so you can understand the gravity of burden of pensions on the government. Okay, then we will see some statistics related to deficit. So fiscal deficit we have already seen, 16 lakh crore rupees roughly, which is 4.3% of GDP. Revenue deficit is 5,92,000 crore rupees, means 5 lakh crore rupees, or roughly close to 6 lakh crore rupees, which is 1.5% of the GDP. Ideally, it should be zero. There shall not be any revenue deficit, but we have it. We have to live. Then effective revenue deficit is 99,000 crore rupees. We have seen it already. What is effective revenue deficit? 0.3% of GDP. Then primary deficit, 2,91,000 crore rupees, roughly 3 lakh crore rupees, which is 0.7% of. Okay. Then sources of financing fiscal deficit. From where we are filling this fiscal deficit, that's we want to see. You see, debt receipts. If you see, 16,63,000 crore rupees we are borrowing through debt. In that, various sub components are there. market borrowings in the form of G6 government securities, short-term borrowings whose tenure is less than 183 days, like that. Uh, they are also generally known as treasury bills. Then securities against small savings, the savings that are there in post offices, etc. State provident funds, other receipts, external debt, etc. Under various categories, government is borrowing money. Okay? You can always do the figures. So grand total once again comes to the same figure. You need not remember these figures, but you just remember under borrowings from where the government is actually borrowing. Okay. Then we will see another important category, that is the trends in deficit. Very, very important. If at all there will be a question in the prelims, that will be on the trends. They may not ask you the actual figures, but they will definitely ask you the trends. Okay. So earlier in 2017-18, you see primary deficit was at 0.4% of GDP. Effective revenue deficit was at 1.5% of GDP. Then revenue deficit was at 2.6% of GDP. Then fiscal deficit was at 3.5%. You see, in 2018-19, they were little bit gone down. 2019-20, they have shot up. 2021 shot up like anything. So you can clearly say this is because of the impact of COVID-19. Okay, we have to leverage our expenditure to help the people, okay, to help the businesses. That's why all these deficits are shot up. And once the COVID effect has declined, you once again see decline in all these deficits. So now at the present, budgeted fiscal deficit for the financial year 26-27 is 4.3% of GDP. Then revenue deficit will be 1.5% of GDP. Then effective revenue deficit will be 0.73%. Then primary deficit will be 0.3. The effective revenue deficit will be 0.3%, and the primary deficit will be 0.7%. So, if at all there is a question, what is happening to these deficits after the COVID? So there is a decline. Okay, there is a decline, but the decline is not uniform. Okay, so that is how you might have to assess these curves and graphs, curves related to the. Okay. So, however, you see, as we are progressing, it's becoming difficult for the government to further take down the deficits. That can be easily understood as the lines are becoming more and more horizontal. So you can say it's becoming a little bit difficult for the government to take them further down. Okay. Right. Then, if you see the trends in debt of the government as a percentage of GDP, uh, if you see the debt as defined in the FRBM Act, 55.6%, then debt as per statement of liabilities uh, in the budget, it stands at 54.7% in this budgeted estimation. If you take the previous year's revised estimates, it stands at 55.2%. Before that, it was at 55.3. Okay, definitely you can see there is a huge spike in during the COVID years, the debt taken by the government. One assessment you can bring here is the government is unable to bring down its debt burden to the pre-COVID levels. Okay, pre-COVID levels, government is unable to bring the debt burden. That assessment you can make here. You see, pre-COVID years, you see the debt as a percentage of GDP was 48.2% in 2018, 48.1% in 2019. COVID year 1920, 50.7%. Immediately in 2021, it shot up to 60.7%. Okay. So ideally, the experts say that your debt to GDP shall be better that it's somewhere around 40%. So we can say that we are not at the comfortable level, but still I would say it's a reasonable, because if you take other countries like Brazil or equivalent countries, Brazil, etc., they have very high debt to GDP ratios. Okay, it goes up to 60 to 70%. So compared to them, we are well placed, we are better. But if you see the better condition, ideal condition, we are not close to ideal condition also. So you can say you are placed reasonably at a better position compared to our likely countries. That is what you can. Yeah. Then you can go on, go on looking at the figures. Tax revenue, gross tax revenue, if you see, it's estimated at 44 lakh crore rupees. Then non-tax revenue is 6 lakh 66,000 crore rupees. Total revenue receipts are estimated at 35 lakh crore rupees. Uh, then, uh, then capital we have included. Total revenue receipts, I'm sorry, total revenue receipts are estimated at 35 lakh crore rupees. Okay. Then, if you see the trend in tax receipts as a percentage of GDP, you see definitely there is a decline in COVID years 19 and 20 and 2021. The gross tax as a percent of GDP touched the lowest point of 10%. But since then also, I would say there is not much increase in as a tax collection as a percentage of GDP. Unfortunately, it is seeing a downward trend because last year also there were exemptions that were given in the direct tax. Okay, and actually we shall be collecting more and more taxes as a percentage of GDP. Unfortunately, it's less in our country, roughly hovering around a little bit more than 11%. And unfortunately, it is in the declining trend, which is not a good sign for the country. You see, ideally, the countries will be collecting tax as a percent of GDP between 15 and 20. You see, some countries are actually, collecting more than 20% taxes, 20% of GDP. They are collecting as taxes. You see why the tax collection has to improve as a percentage of GDP. Then only you can spend that money on social welfare. You see, this I am not suggesting that you have to impose more taxes on the people. No, that's not how you collect the taxes. But what you have to do, you have to improve the tax compliance. What is I meant by tax compliance? Within the existing tax rates, okay, many people who actually come in the tax bracket means they have to pay the tax, but unfortunately they are not paying. Okay, that is the reason. And you see, this is very much true when it comes to the professionals, independent professionals like lawyers, doctors, chartered accountants, consultants, etc. I'm sorry for saying this, but what do you think? Do they honestly pay the taxes on the income they are earning? Unfortunately, the answer is no. You see, I have nothing against all these people, professionals, but are they paying the taxes that has to be paid by them? No, they are not. Then you also see the not only I'm blaming the professionals, but also the corporations. They find out more and more ways either to evade the tax or to just you know bend the rules or you know go beyond these rules and just avoid paying the tax. Okay, they choose to avoid the tax, okay, than complying and paying the tax. Okay, so I think in this way the tax compliance has to be improved a lot in our country. If this thing we are able to address, I think we can solve the problem of low tax collection rate as a percentage of GDP, low tax percentage as a percentage of GDP. Ideally, in our country, we can actually collect tax up to 15% of GDP. We can do that. Even if we can do that and achieve that, I think we will have a lot of money that we can spend on the social security measures, like maybe towards education, maybe towards maybe towards creating infrastructure, etc. Let's see. Government will actually do you know, work towards that. I think in the past government tried a little bit. Then came the criticism that government is actually resorting to tax terrorism. It's harassing the people, uh, you know, uh, on the name of paying the taxes, etc., etc. So it's a delicate thing. It's not that easy. Okay. So it has to be done very carefully and in a measured manner. We will wait and see what will happen. But let me tell you, there are countries like, once again, the comparable countries like Brazil, etc. They are collecting better tax to GDP. They have better tax to GDP ratio compared to our country. Okay? So it's doable. That's what I want to draw here. The point I want to draw here is it's doable. Then next area we will see is trend in net receipts of net receipt of the center government. So you can see total non-tax non-debt receipts are they stand at 36.5. No, I'm sorry, they are not. Lakh crore rupees. Non-debt capital receipts standard. It's very difficult because the exact figures are not mentioned. You see total receipts of the government. If you see 36 lakh crore rupees in that share is given. The non-tax revenues are 6.7 lakh crore rupees. Green, the non-debt capital receipts, they stand somewhere around 2 lakh crore rupees, like that. Tax total tax receipts are 28.7 lakh crore rupees. Then total receipts are 36.5 lakh crore. Okay, this is the trend. You can say after the COVID, it is steadily, total revenue of the government is steadily increasing. That is what you can say. Okay. Then we will come to expenditure. So centers total expenditure. If you see the grand total of the government expenditure is 53 lakh 47,000 crore rupees, which is equal to total receipts also. Okay, various figures, under various figures it is mentioned, so you can go through the expenditure. Okay, then if you see the effective capital expenditure of the government, so capital expenditure of the government is 12 lakh 21,000 crore rupees, and grants in aid for creation of the capital assets that are given to the states is 4 lakh 92,000 crore rupees. So in total effective capital expenditure stands at 17 lakh 14,000 crore rupees. Okay. Then if you see the tax expenditure of the government, composition of expenditure of the government, the establishment expenditure will be 8.2 lakh crore rupees. Then central sector schemes, towards that expenditure will be 17 lakh crore rupees. Then other central sector expenditure will be 17 lakh crore rupees, almost similar. Centrally sponsored schemes 5 lakh crore rupees. Other grants, loans and transfers to the states, it stands at 3.3 lakh crore. Total expenditure together 53 lakh crore. Then composition of revenue and capital expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure. Okay, so capital expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure stands at 22.8%. Actually, it can be roughly 33%. If I'll be very happy. The share of capital expenditure in total expenditure stands at 30. Means at least 1/3. But we are below. I can say considerably below. So means 100 rupees we have 22, roughly 23 rupees we are spending towards capital expenditure. Means which has the potential of creating infrastructure, creating assets, and which can actually provide jobs, etc. etc. Then grants in aid capital expenditure 9.2%. Club these two, it's coming towards 32%. Okay, reasonable. Revenue expenditure. What is the meaning of revenue expenditure? To meet the day-to-day needs of the government. That's revenue expenditure. What is its share? Is 7.9%, roughly 68% is the revenue expenditure. Then trend in capital expenditure, if you see, in 2017-18, capital expenditure was stands at 2.6 lakh crore rupees. Now budget estimation is 12.2 lakh crore rupees. So from 2017-18 onwards, there is a 6 times increase in capital expenditure. If you see the effective capital expenditure, 17-18 it's 4.8%. 4.5 lakh crore rupees. Budgeted estimation for the next coming financial year 17.1 lakh crore. So trend, if you see, there is also increase, reasonably steady. There is a, because there is no downfall, you will not see the bars falling. So this is a steady growth. There is a steady growth in the capex of the central government. But one question you have to ask here is it sufficient? That is the question. Then the answer will be no, it's not sufficient. Okay, for a country of 140 crore people, we are spending 12 lakh crore rupees as capital expenditure, which is very short of the required. Anyhow, capital expenditure, if you see as a percentage of GDP, okay. So capital expenditure as a percent of GDP stands at 3.1% budgeted estimation. Grants in aid capital expenditure is 1.3%. Then total effective capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP, if you see, it's a 4.4%. It's rising, falling. So the growth of this trend of capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP, it is increasing, you can say, but is it a steady increase? No, it is not a steady increase. There is increase, fall, rise, fall, rise. So it's not steady. That is what you have to say. Okay. Then expenditure towards major items. Okay, we will see. Pension 29 lakh, 2 lakh 96,000 crore rupees, roughly 3 lakh crore rupees going towards pension payments. Then defense 5 lakh 94,000 crore rupees, roughly 6 lakh crore rupees. Subsidy, fertilizer subsidy 1 lakh 70,000 crore rupees, means 1.7 lakh crore rupees. Food subsidy 2.2 lakh crore rupees, okay, 2 lakh 27,000 crore rupees. Petroleum subsidy 12,000 crore rupees. Okay, agriculture and total towards agriculture and allied activity is 1,62,000 crore rupees. Okay, for electricity, for equipment, subsidy on equipment, subsidy on credit, etc. etc. Very important thing, expenditure towards commerce and industry. Okay, 70,000 crore rupees. For development of Northeast region, 6,000 crore rupees. Education, expenditure towards education, 1,39,000 crore rupees. Towards energy, 1,09,000 crore. Okay, etc. etc. Many items are there. Interest payment, you see, 14,03,000 crore rupees. 14 lakh rupees are going towards interest payments. Okay, if you go on looking at the total expenditure stands at 53 lakh crore rupees, 53 lakh 47. Then there is a transfer of resources to states and union territories with the legislature. Okay, devolution of states share in taxes. If you see, 15 lakh 26,000 crore rupees are given to the states statutorily. Then some important items of transfer are there under NDMF, National Disaster Management Force, NDRF. Okay, NDRF Response Force, etc. etc. Various are there. Then Finance Commission grants, okay, they stand at 1,20,000 rupees. Then total transfers to states other than 1, 2, 3 items that are discussed, they stand at 6 lakh 9,000 crore rupees, etc. You can go on looking at the transfers. Then total transfers to states and UTs, if you see, budgeted estimation is 26 lakh crore rupees. In 2017, 18, how much it was? It stood at 10 lakh crore. Okay. There is increase, but for a brief period, there is a steady increase. Okay. That is how you can analyze it. Then comparison of transfers to states and UTs. Finance Commission grants, okay, rise and fall is there. Okay, in 24-25 budgeted estimate 1 lakh to 1, actually revised estimates, there no more transfers the government has to make. This year budgeted estimation is 1.29 lakh crore rupees. So we will see what happens. Then schemes related and other transfers, they are estimated at 9.65 lakh crore rupees. Devolution under the Finance Commission recommendations, they stand at 15.26 lakh crore. Then allocations, okay, outlay for major schemes. In the previous document also we have seen some allocations for Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, 8,000 crore rupees. Krishi Sinchay Yojana, 11,000 crore rupees. Okay, under various heads you can go on looking at the numbers. Samagra Shiksha, 42,000 crore. Poshan Abhiyan, 12,000 crore rupees, etc. Major allocations you can go on, okay, for various schemes. In total, there is allocation for schemes and numbering 191. Okay, so centrally sponsored schemes, central sector schemes, together they are 191 schemes, allocations first. Budget profile, if you see briefly, the total budget size is 53.46 lakh crore. In that, if you see the receipts side, capital receipts stand at 18 lakh crore rupees. Tax receipts, net tax receipts stand at 20.6 lakh crore. Gross tax revenue is 44 lakh crore rupees. Okay. Then from that, 15.26 goes as a state share of taxes. 12%, 12 lakh crore rupees is coming in the form of corporation tax. 10 lakh crore is coming in the form of GST, goods and services tax. Okay. Then in capital receipts, the data receipts stand at almost 17 lakh crore rupees. Then in that, market loans are stand at 13 lakh crore rupees. Then loans, small savings and the state provident fund and others, roughly 4 lakh crore rupees coming. Okay. Then tax receipts are this much. Non-tax revenue or receipts are 6.66 lakh crore rupees. Okay, in that interest receipts are there, dividend and profit is there, and others are there. Okay, in this way you try and look at the aspects. This is the receipts part, and if you see the expenditure, scheme expenditure 23 lakh crore is going on. Then transfers, establishment and other expenditure is 30 lakh crore rupees. In that other capital expenditure is 17 lakh crore rupees. Major part of that is going towards interest payment. Within this, 8 lakh crore rupees is establishment expenditure, that salaries, pensions, other expenditures. Okay. Then in this total scheme expenditure, 23 lakh crore rupees, 5 lakh crore rupees is going towards centrally sponsored schemes, and 17 lakh crore rupees are going towards central sector schemes. Okay. In that, 2 lakh crore rupees are roughly 2 lakh crore rupees towards general services, 9 lakh crore rupees is economic services, subsidy 4.55 lakh crore rupees being towards a subsidy, total subsidy. In that, 1.71 lakh crore rupees is fertilizer subsidy. Remember, these are very, very important figures. Food subsidy under National Food Security Act is 2.28 lakh crore rupees. You see, uh, about this, lot of criticism is there. Some people are saying, why you have to give this much of subsidy on food? So we will discuss it appropriate time, whether their criticism is correct, whether it is incorrect. We will come to that point. Petroleum subsidy is, 12,000 crore rupees. Okay, then other subsidies, 42,000 crore rupees. Then social service subsidies on social services. Sorry, it's not part of subsidy. So these are the major subsidies. You try to remember the figures for the subsidies. Okay, you can directly quote them in the exam. So in that we have seen within the transfers, establishments and other expenditure, transfers to states and others is 4.41 lakh crore rupees. Then finance commission transfers within that 1 lakh crore rupees. Other transfers 3.12 lakh crore rupees. So this is how you have to assess the budget and various allocations. Okay. So this is what you have to learn through this document. I hope you have followed and understood. Very, very important. You have to remember the figures. Very, very important. Either in the prelims exam, you will get the trends, and or when you are writing the mains exam, either you might be asked to analyze the trends, or maybe you are writing an answer, you can quote the figures. Food subsidy is this much, allocation to Kaushal Vikas Yojana is this much, etc. You can use the direct figures and you can answer the questions. So this is what you have to learn in this document. We'll meet next time with another analysis. And then you have a very good. See you next time.